Welcome to the Talk Like a Leader podcast, where we explore the mindset, skill set, and habit set of leadership communication. Using these tips, techniques, and tactics, you'll be able to talk like a leader to build better relationships and get more done. Your host is Guy Harris, who has more than 20 years of combined professional and military experience in consulting, coaching, and training in areas like team and interaction dynamics, communication strategies and tactics, as well as emotional intelligence. Take it away, Guy.
Hi, this is Guy Harris. Welcome to the Talk Like a Leader podcast. We're continuing the conversation with Carl Smith on coaching mindset. We're moving into how to talk or how to make allowance for the S trait in coaching relationships. And like we've done in prior episodes in this series, we're going to talk from both sides of the relationship. Carl's going to talk a bit about what does he have to do as a person with supportive traits when he's in the coaching role, and what he has to do to get himself out of the way, to get past his mental roadblocks so that he can provide good, effective coaching for the other person. I'm going to talk a bit about what you have to do in order to adjust when you are engaging with a person of supportive traits, particularly if you don't, so that you can create the space to invite that other person into the conversation. Really, the whole concept here we're talking about in this series of episodes is how to get out of your own way to do whatever you have to do for whatever the relationship is to make the coaching go better. And I hope what is starting to shape up and starting to be clear is that while the concept of getting yourself out of the way for the coaching conversation stays the same, the difference is how you would demonstrate that or manifest that effort to get out of the way, depending on your style and the style of the person with whom you're interacting for the coaching conversation. Okay, so Carl, you've got lots of S traits, supportive traits, reserved and people-oriented.
Yes.
And you're sitting in the coaching seat. You've got a member of your team that you have to have a coaching conversation with them. And as a reminder, we're not talking discipline, we're talking coaching. So they're doing okay. We just want to help them get better.
Mm-hmm.
What is the thing that you have to be aware of or conscious of sitting in the supportive seat as the coach so that you can make a better connection and help engage with the other person and actually help them get better?
I think as a coach that has a lot of S tendencies, the one thing that I have to do to make sure that I don't get in my own way is find ways that I can speak more directly at specific issues, at specific circumstances. The other piece is because my heart is to serve, sometimes the message or what I'm attempting to communicate can be so padded with kindness and consideration and all these things that a person may not really understand the level of how important an issue is, or how something needs to be addressed, or the sense of urgency working on an issue or a project or what have you. Those are a few things that I have to be very careful of. Also, I would say boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Boundaries and with time, boundaries with what we agree to do or do together.
Mm-hmm.
So just keeping a steady mind of those different things and having realistic expectations, I think that's an area that I have to really focus in on when I do coaching.
So I think I heard three things there, is that, and as a person with supportive traits, to be a more effective coach, to get out of your own way so you can coach others better, the opportunity is to learn how to be more direct, learn how to be more clear about the specific issue, which I think is probably kind of tied to the second one. They're sort of two looks at the same kind of idea, is that in an effort to not be direct, you can sometimes go too far and be so gentle that the message is lost.
Yes.
Or the significance is lost, or the urgency is lost. There's like the edge is taken off of it because you're so focused on being kind.
Yep.
That you wind up not being clear, or not being direct enough, or not being something so that it's really urgency is demonstrated.
Right.
And the third thing I heard is around boundaries. And I think I mean, I've known you for a long time. So I think what that means is like relationship boundaries, is being clear about where does the professional line start and the friend line end.
Right.
And trying to keep that clear as you're having some professional coaching conversations. Did I hear that accurately?
That's spot on.
As a person who might be in the other seat trying to coach a person who has supportive traits, trying to go the other direction. Now I'm trying to coach a person who, like Carl, has supportive traits and trying to invite them into the conversation. I think the main thing I've learned is slow down. Beware of the tendency to try to push to conclusion too quickly. Right. And it's probably the biggest thing I can say. And,
yes.
I gotta be careful how that's phrased, because it can sound like I'm saying that people with supportive traits aren't very smart, or, they don't want to take action or something. That's not at all what I mean. What I'm trying to say is that and Carl can clarify for me if I get this a little off. The concern for personal supportive traits is so heavily on the nature and quality of the relationship that if I go too quickly, jump to the point too fast, speak too directly, too intensely, too loudly, something.
Yep.
It feels to a person with supportive traits like you're pushing them, or that you don't appreciate what they have done. You're focusing on maybe a minor thing that you want improved, and they feel like you didn't appreciate all the stuff they did
right
up to that point, that you don't value the relationship, that you're viewing them as a tool in the organization, and you don't put appreciation and relationship value on this person. It's all about getting stuff done.
Yep.
And so they can feel like you don't really appreciate them for everything they do if they're not perfect. Does that sound right, Carl?
Yeah, that's it. Very much. And I'd say one thing that folks that are coaching, someone that has, as a person, and I'm reversing roles here.
So you're flipping it. Now you're on the receiving end as a person with supportive traits.
Yes. Tone is critical. So it's volume and tone.
Yeah.
You want to continuously have a safe environment so people can receive what you're saying. And you do a great job of that, Guy. I mean, that was one of the reasons why I had you for many years as my coach. But you're able to say things that need to be said in a very calm and gentle approach.
And so one thing that just comes to mind that I was kind of focused on vocal energy and tone and all that. I'm also thinking some things that I've learned about working with people with supportive traits is probably more than any other person, D, I, or C, to be aware of body language.
Yes.
And I think this is probably kind of a generally true for all people. It's just that it's especially true for people with supportive traits, because body language conveys so much about emotional security and safety.
Yes.
So there are things to think about in terms of how you engage with a person with supportive traits. As a coach, think about side by side rather than face to face.
Yes.
Or 45 degrees apart or something like that. So even physically pointing in the same direction, as opposed to a direct, more confrontational kind of body language and positioning, can often help make things better as a coach who's trying to coach a person with supportive traits. So I'm kind of wrap it up here and say that, Carl and I have been talking about the idea of coaching mindset with regard to person who has supportive traits. Carl offered perspective from a person who has supportive traits, and he offered some really great perspective in both roles, both as the coach and as the person receiving the coaching. And I was talking more about when you're in the coach's seat and you have to coach a person on your team who has supportive traits. And hopefully you get some ideas here that you can take forward, whether you have supportive traits and you need to get better as a coach and being more direct and communicating urgency better, or maybe you have people on your team who have supportive traits and you're struggling with ways to connect with them better and invite them in the conversation. Hopefully either way, we shared some ideas with you. And if you'll take these ideas, run with them, practice them, apply them, you can talk like a leader. This has been the Talk Like a Leader podcast. You can listen to this show every week wherever you get your podcast. If you haven't, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. I'm Guy Harris, and thanks for listening.